Okay, probability, example 3. An evenly weighted coin is flipped 3 times. Find the probability of A, exactly 3 heads, B, exactly 2 heads, C, exactly 1 head, D, at least 1 head, E, no heads. Since one toss of the coin is not going to affect the other toss, each toss is independent of the other tosses. For independent events, one can use either a Venn diagram, boxes, or tree, but Venn diagrams and boxes can get complicated if the sample size is more than 2. Because the coin is flipped more than 2 times, we will use a tree for this example. Because the coin is evenly weighted, heads and tails are equally likely. Thus, on each toss, the probability of a head is 1 out of 2, the probability of a tail is 1 out of 2. Because the probabilities are all the same, it's not necessary to write the probabilities on the tree itself. Okay, so here's our tree. Again, each of these probabilities is 1 out of 2, but I'm not going to bother to write them. The first toss is either a head or a tail, and likewise the second toss is a head or a tail, and the third toss is a head or a tail. Okay. When you flip it twice, then we have 4 possibilities: head, 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 tail, tail, head, tail, tail. If you flip it 3 times, now we have 8 possibilities: head, 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 tail, tail, head, and so forth. So the sample space would be a set of these 8 possible outcomes. The probability of exactly 3 heads, that would be the top path. It's head, head, head is the top path. It's only one path, so it's 1 out of 8. We could do 0.5 times 0.5 times 0.5, or 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2. But since they're all the same, we can just count the number of paths and divide by 8. So its answer is 1 out of 8. Probability of exactly 2 heads is 3 out of 8, because I put the paths with 2 heads in red here. So head, head, tail has 2 heads. Head, tail, head has 2 heads. Tail, head, head has 2 heads. So it's 3 paths out of 8. So it's the probability of 3/8. Probability of exactly 1 head, and again those are in blue here. 1 head means there's 2 tails. So head, tail, tail would be 1 path. Tail, head, tail, and tail, tail, head. So the 3 paths in blue have exactly 1 head, and there's 3 of them, so its probability is 3 out of 8. Probability of at least 1 head, that means 1 or more, and there's the 7 top paths all have at least 1 head. The only path that doesn't have any heads is the bottom path. So the answer, probability there is 7 out of 8. Probability of no heads, that's all 3 tails, that's the bottom path, that's 1 out of 8. And that concludes this presentation.